The other man, husband had heart attack night before last. They called me up yesterday and said, "Can I be here?" So I made a quick PowerPoint, and then I looked at the report that was here, and I threw the PowerPoint out. So I'm here to answer questions and talk to you a little bit without getting and boring you with numbers. When you turn over to page 57, that's fisheries data. And if you look there, you'll see the different products in the state of Oregon. I'm going to quickly tell you a couple of things. Great start and absolutely in favor of what you've done. The real landings you eliminated were the distant water fleet. We have 30 vessels in Newport that range up to 150 feet that don't land products into Oregon, so they don't show up in here. Yet the money comes to here. So how do you count it? I count that as part of the fisheries data that should be incorporated. Lincoln County has done an economic study. We just finished 2 years ago. We have economic data back 30 years related to our coastal area. We're happy to share this with you. We'll make a better report. Either Bill or economic director will be glad to give you access to all that stuff. We can get it brought into the there. So if you want to get in depth into fisheries. Now let me talk about a couple of things. First of all, our future is solid. Fisheries is a sustainable resource now in the state of Oregon. We lead literally most countries in the world in sustainability, and it's right here in Oregon. Our main product, shrimp, crab, tuna, almost all of them. Salmon is one of them that still isn't totally considered sustainable, but it's getting there. Even our groundfish fishery, which most people attack, is now considered sustainable. It's a great point because that's what your future is. You've got a sustainable product to work from. And the value of product goes up by the economy and the weather. It goes down. If you look at a graph of fisheries production, it's like a saw laying on its edge. It has its strong years and it goes down. If you look at these numbers, if I was to pull it back, if you can see right here, crab, it tends to be the top one. That's the yellow one. But if you look over here, pink shrimp is coming up strong. That's because of the amount of pounds. Whiting is a big product for us that's high volume, low dollar value. That goes a lot by what the world economy changes. So, there it is, Kate, that's whiting, a common one. We sell a lot of that into third world countries. It's actually a very good product. Then if you add in the distant water fleet, you got pollock and you got king crab. You see the deadliest catch. We've got about 8 or 10 of those boats sitting there. Those are big rigs, big producers. And then we've got a bunch of boats that are even bigger. They're fishing cod and pollock. So Alaska, they're not real happy about it, but we land the product. And guess where they send the money? Oregon. It's a good deal. I'll take that deal all the time. But that's about our limit for those boats because we've set up now that we all have permits. Today, buying and selling permits is worth more than the boats. And so if Alaska or if a guy out of Seattle purchased one of our boats, Oregon's goes down. That's one of the things that worries me because I watched $10 million worth of vessels sail out of there in about 3 months here a few years ago and go to Seattle. Something that we need to be aware of. Let's see. One of the other things that doesn't show up in here is you got a product landed or the dollar value, but then there's this processing cost on top of it. You take something like crab. If you haven't looked at the market, we're starting to ask for proof of your economic status before we sell you a pound of it. I think it's up around $40 a pound for a pound of crab. That's big time product. That's driven by China coming in and buying so much of our product and going over there in a live market. So there's less crab around to be sold. And now we're having a down cycle in crab. So you're going to see
it even get more expensive in the future. We may have to take a second on your house if you want to try. Then I always talk about fresh products. Fresh products, if you can get fresh seafood, is great. Local Ocean, a restaurant down there, has made a huge business on selling fresh product. Unfortunately, the rules we have in the state of Oregon, passed down by the Department of Fish and Wildlife, were developed years ago, and it hampers really getting fresh product right straight to the restaurants and stuff. Something that we may be able to work on in the future and create even more of a fresh market industry and a higher value there. One of the big challenges, and I was really interested to hear you talk about renewable energy, because that's our biggest conflict right now that's developing, is the problem of renewable energy. Off Goose Bay, they want to put a wind farm out there. Well, they put a wind farm out there, and it goes right in the middle of where the guys fish whiting a lot of the time. And they say, oh, we're only going to take a mile. But they don't realize a lot of these nets that these whiting boats are fishing take an hour to get on board. So really, the effective fishing circle may be 10, 12 miles when you put a mile in the ocean, because they can't get the net on board quick enough before they're going to be tangled up in the anchors. That's a big challenge. And the people that don't know the fishing industry think, oh, well, this is a wonderful thing. Well, if you look at the dollars that you produce, it'd be like a farmer who all of a sudden has a great crop, but they lock up the gate to the field that you need to harvest. That's going to be our challenge. How do we get energy production and things that people want out of the ocean, but still allow for there to be agricultural production there? It's a challenge that I don't think the government's really addressing. So, I got a couple minutes for questions. I'd rather answer your questions than me. I just threw out a few subjects and challenges that we have in our industry. I think the industry looks pretty good in the long run, but it'll have its downturns, and then we'll have its real strong turns. Yes?
Different kinds of nets to get rid of certain kind of fish. Is that effective? I was kind of curious about that. Yeah.
The excluder devices, as the environmentalists have forced us in, the Endangered Species Act and that, the fishermen have led the program in Newport to develop excluder devices. We have an unusual net now that has a panel that goes in, that has cables down the side instead of web. And so if the halibut comes in, it's narrow enough that a halibut can swim out, but cod go into the end of the net. Real effective. They've got cameras now in the nets, certain type of devices. They can slow down, and the salmon will swim out if they see a salmon swim in. We have the shrimp device is probably the most famous one. It was designed after the TED, which is a grating that fits into the net. It's a metal grating. It's small enough in the opening that the shrimp will go through it. And shrimp don't swim real well. It gets on an angle, and the whole top of the net's open. So there's a grating in there. The shrimp will go through those holes, and all the fish touch it, and they can swim stronger. They dart out the opening, and they're gone. Today, a shrimp net is almost completely clean of anything but shrimp. Then they've found they've got a light that they can attach to the bottom of the net. And so Ulicon was one that they were worried about endangered species here not too long ago. Today, those squirt out the front of the net because that light scares them, and they just come out of the net. So it's almost pure shrimp in there today with no bite. We've done a lot of that, and a lot of that's been developed in Newport now. It's being exported all around the Pacific. Anybody else got a question? Nobody wants a home loan on.
I hope this isn't off topic for you, but you mentioned $10 million of boats going to Seattle. Probably some hundreds of millions of dollars of boats came from Seattle for a research business on the coast. I wonder if you could comment on the impact of that, the NOAA base and other research and activity stemming from that.
NOAA is a great addition. It's the right place. Newport is a port of fishermen who believe in science is the right way to do it. It's science. It's helped us to make us such a strong port. NOAA is a great addition. It has about 85 jobs related to just the land-based stuff. The jobs that didn't come that we hoped were the jobs on the ship, because those guys can live in Seattle, they can live anywhere and come here and get on the ship and go to sea for 6 months. So they don't have to live here. Over time, I think you'll see more and more people come here because of the livability of the state of Oregon. And so to answer your question, now the big one that's coming is the OSU and the Hatfield Marine Science Center and the research and education facility that we've got funded now to be built there. That's 500 students. But more important is the fact that we're trying to make the best scientists in the world in ocean science. If we're capable of doing that, it can only help the fishing industry and help everybody in the Pacific. And our goal is to teach not only just the biology of it, but to teach the effects on the law, the effects on the industries, that their seamanship, teach scientists with a more broad-based approach to biology than just studying the animal themselves. Any other questions?
What, Commissioner Thompson, what keeps salmon from being sustainable, and what happened in 2005 to the crab value landings?
I'm not even sure exactly what. They're still worried about some overharvest in some years. The salmon problem isn't so much the industry, it's the water quality. Like right now in California, they're having just a lack of water down there. And then if that species or an area is impacted by the lack of water and there isn't the production, it may shut down the fisheries all around it because of the Endangered Species Act. So that's the challenge there. It's not overfishing so much as it's how we protect our water on land, and then just literally the effects of changes in climate. I haven't worked the salmon issues for so many years. I don't believe it's bycatch overall, but I haven't worked that issue. You're better off asking at somebody who does work on salmon issues. It's been 15 years since I've worked on salmon. I apologize, but I've worked more on everything else that swims in the ocean. You're looking at me like you want me to quit.